Hello, and welcome to another installment of Astrology versus Psychology, where we do a deep dive into the DSM-5 and see like what psychology can learn from astrology and vice versa in order to help people better understand themselves and ultimately heal. I'm Nikki. I've got about a decade of astrology experience under my belt, and I'm joined here today by Angela Eureka Smith. And
Hi.
there you go. And Sarah.
Castaneda. It's really hard to say.
And today we're going to take a look at dissociative identity disorder, or what it used to be known as multiple personality disorder. And so right away, when this came up, I thought of Neptune. So Neptune in astrology deals with the imagination. We've talked about Neptune before, right? It's dealing with the realm of writers and creative people. It's like you dip into the ether and you just come up with all these imaginative things, whether it's painting, writing, acting. So it's the ability to understand multiple viewpoints. Now, if you take them and you write them in a book, multiple characters, that is seen as a socially acceptable way of channeling this energy. And in astrology, everything has a low vibration and high vibration. There's no real good or bad. It's a spectrum. And so I can see where, like, getting on the lower end of the spectrum, getting stuck in various ways, and like your wires crossed with some of the other planets, you might not have a filter for that imagination. Right, we've all role played in some aspects, whether it again is through the writing or if you're an actor, etc. But it's a matter of getting really lost in that character or crossing wires, and now all of a sudden that character is part of you. So that's kind of what I expected to see, maybe something with Mercury, which is the planet of communication and writing, and higher thought, memory, all that sort of thing. So getting that kind of in a hard aspect to the Neptunian energy, that's kind of what I expected to see. Saturn as well. Saturn deals with reality and control over reality, whereas Neptune is the fantasy realm. And so sometimes when they butt heads, there can be a disconnect and kind of a hassle or control for what is real and what isn't. It's almost like, well, why should I have to pick one identity? So Neptune and Jupiter, I should say too, but both of these energies, Piscean energy in general, is that energy of oneness. It's the 12th sign of the zodiac, and brings it all together, brings all the energies together. So it has the ability to tap into all of them. And so sure enough, I'm going to pull up on my screen right now. Did you guys have any questions or any insight, anything that you wanted to add?
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just listening. It's really cool.
Okay, so here's what the DSM-5 has to say about it. Keeps it pretty brief. So the diagnostic criteria is disruption of identity characterized by two or more distinct personality states, which may be described in cultures as an experience of possession. Now, Neptune also deals with the spirit realm, right? So, and that 12th house is the 12th removed from the first, which is us here in these bodies. The 12th house is the spirit realm, that Neptunian, Jupiterian realm. And so that you would see that kind of ability to channel almost. People be feeling put upon by other energies. And it may actually be the case in some of these cases, interestingly. I've heard psychology more and more is taking a look at the spiritual stuff, along with science and physics, about all of the stuff that we don't know about what makes up the universe, which is a lot. There's a lot we don't know. But there's a lot that we have been tapping into for eons. astrology itself is a 5,000-year-old discipline. It's not like it just was like somebody decided to say this is just the way things are. No, this is like the scientific method over time. Well, when the planets are here, we tend to see this in people better than someone. So to me, that's observation, which is a pretty valid way to go about this. So astrology merges with spirituality and science, and psychology gets its roots from astrology. So Carl Jung's archetypes,
Okay.
a lot of his psychology on, come from the planets and their archetypes within astrology. So I could kind of bring it full circle with this series in that way.
So do like psychiatrists do the same thing? Like psychologists do sort of use a little bit of astrology or something, but do psychiatrists? Just a random question.
Well, it depends on each individual.
Right. Okay.
Really, there's no necessity
Right. Okay.
but the principles that Carl Jung used,
Okay.
his use of astrology, he used it regularly. He would get a
cool.
person's chart and and I can say in my background, I had the very interesting experience of working in a psychologist office for a number of years, and we would sometimes share clients. And that was really wild because I'd be able to one thing that astrology can do is look at the natal chart and really pinpoint some of these things, as we'll see, and very quickly get to the heart of the issue, and then understanding, again, the Neptunian energy and how the lower end of it can be kind of feeling overwhelmed and put upon by all these energies, very empathic.
Yeah.
Feels everything. And then the higher end of that can be channeled into that spirituality, like that understanding that, okay, you're feeling all this, you're one, but you're also here having this experience. So we need to balance all of these energies, all 12 of the signs. You are all of them.
Right.
One, right? Don't let one overwhelm you. Master them all, right? Be the Zen master.
Yeah.
So I think it can be helpful.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, you want to look at all angles to help someone.
Exactly. So the disruption in identity involves marked discontinuity in sense of self and sense of agency, accompanied by related alterations in affect, behavior, consciousness, memory, perception, cognition, and or sensory motor functioning. So again, these are all aspects. A lot of them are things that Mercury will deal with: memory, perception. Behavior and motor functioning can be Mars, can be Saturn. Again, so I would expect to see some sort of crossing of wires with those energies. So we're going to take a look at some celebrity charts in just a minute and see how they, what they have to share with us on this. So recurrent gaps in the recall of everyday events, and that's the memory. And Mercury deals with the higher mind, the academic mind, the more here and now, the things I can tangibly see and affect, not the imagination so much. And so these two wires get crossed in such a way to see it being like, is that real? Isn't it? Okay, I'm just going to go with it being this way then, So these other personalities can just come right out instead of, if you didn't have that disconnect, or it wasn't a hard aspect, you might just be a really good improv actor. That can be the difference in how it manifests. So let's see. Gaps in recalling everyday events, important personal information, and or traumatic events that are inconsistent with ordinary forgetting. And the symptoms cause clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. So you can't just be eccentric. It has to be that, switching of the personalities. You forget where you live. Or maybe you forget how to drive, like if you revert to a child, you know.
Yeah.
And in some cultures too, like this isn't it isn't something that's unusual for people to get possessed, especially with the more shamanistic people, which is a house thing and the spiritual. And so they will at a younger age be channeled into ways to work with this energy. They're like, oh yeah, now I'm channeling this or channeling that. And it's given so much time and so much ability to say what it needs to say, but also there's that integration of recognizing that you have maybe a core self
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a time and a place, and you can't just have me first to drive in the middle of driving. That's not cool. You know what I mean? So again, working with these energies. Let's see. So the first one, can you see this chart, Sarah?
I love this stuff. Yeah, I can see it.
See it, okay. So this chart is a little different than some of the ones that I've brought up before, and the ones that we'll see. It's a chart of Trudy Chase, who was famous. She apparently went on Oprah for her multiple personalities. So this is kind of a confirmed giant case that brought it into the public awareness a little bit more back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I looked for, because some of these celebrities have confirmed it, like either it's been out of their own mouths or somebody very close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, it's like maybe they did. So
Yeah.
then I'll look in the chart and see, do I see the aspects of the babies? So Trudy was confirmed. And the first thing that stuck out to me is she's got her ascendant degree here at 9 degrees of Scorpio. And the ascendant is the physical self, the body.
Okay.
Okay, here I am incarnated in this meat sack. And 9 degrees and then 11 degrees here is Neptune. So that's the symbol for Neptune.
Is that the descendant sign?
No, that's the ascendant. So the descendant would be over here near Saturn.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
then I was seeing that we do have Neptune there very prominently, like I would expect.
okay.
And then, so when Neptune's with you, when you're physically here, it's like, am I really here? Because remember, it's a spirit realm. It's just with you in your body and everything you do. So am I here? I don't know. It's like every step she took, she was unsure if she was actually here incarnated, right? And
Wow.
so it's trying to find your place here, trying to ground yourself in who you are, because especially if you look at it like maybe you're tapping into past lives, just picking up on different energies, or just having wires crossed from your own childhood. Like it all depends on what you believe. Have it all figured out, but then right across here, so these lines in the middle here are kind of like telephone wires. The red ones, it's like a staticky line. The blue ones, it'll be like a more pleasant signal, but you can kind of fall asleep during the conversation. So there's no good or bad necessarily, but the red lines are like, pay attention to this. This is disruptive.
Okay.
And across from this, we've got Saturn, and Saturn is reality, right? I talked about it earlier. The planet of grounding you here, and you're like, here you are on Earth, deal with it, and Neptune, I don't want to deal with it. I would rather do anything else.
Right.
Neptune is your poets, your writers,
Right.
any escapism of any kind. In the lower form, it's drugs and alcohol. In the middle form, it will be books and movies, things of that nature. In the highest form, it tends to be spirituality. And that's kind of the way out of this, like I said. That oneness under control and under an understanding, so you're not like buried in it. The learning to set boundaries. Saturn is those boundaries. So this then is a kind of constant push-pull between the two, and there's a disconnect as a result of like Not only is there this who am I, now I'm trying to constantly ground it out through the static.
Okay.
I'm getting bits of who I am. Do you see how that could be multiple
Yeah.
personalities?
Is it usually like this with people where their ascendant and their descendant are so opposites, or
Yeah,
is that,
the ascendant and the descendant will always be across from each other.
oh, okay. But I mean, like, since this person is fighting within itself,
Yeah. No, this is her unique chart, not everybody's chart.
right? That's what I'm saying. Is this an unusual chart?
Well,
These
we're all
two guys are
unusual.
so opposite. You know what I mean?
But yeah, this isn't something that you see often.
Okay, that's what. Okay, yeah.
That's
Okay,
what I would say. And then
yeah.
she's also got Lilith here. So that's
Okay.
the black moon, and that's the wild feminine energy. And there's very much there's a very earthy groundedness to her too, and a control. So here you have these two energies of control and earthiness kind of warring it out with Neptune for what reality is going to be in any given moment, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, Neptune's like, but why pick one? Right? I want to be
Right.
all of the things. And Saturn's like, well, you can't. You got to pick one. And Neptune's like, I'm not going to. So I'm going to actually be like 20 people.
Okay.
And what do you get? You know?
Woman.
And I think she did have like something like 22 personalities.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Right. So here we have Roseanne Barr, who this is by her mouth, I should say,
Okay.
that she has multiple personality disorders. There's not like official documentation, but she's talked about it. And what do we see here? Saturn, Neptune, conjunct.
Oh yeah. That's interesting.
So again, that's a fighting back and forth between those energies. Now, it obviously didn't get to the point of disrupting her whole life. She got control of it, that Saturn, and it's a conjunction in this case, and not the opposition. So
Okay.
it was very disruptive, and she couldn't get a hold of it. Roseanne Barr took her multiple personalities and turned it into a comedy skit show.
Okay. Yeah.
Channeled it into something that she could control, that Saturn energy, and grounded that Neptune out. Now, not that it didn't occasionally get her in trouble,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because there's only so much, like it is still a constant war, because they're sitting together in the same house when they're conjunct
Okay.
in 20 to 22 degrees. They're sitting next to each other and they don't like each other.
They're like uncomfortable at a dinner party or something.
Yeah. So of course, all the planets will work with each other.
Mhm.
But, you can look at it like that. Like, it's like, okay, well, how are we supposed to do this? We're complete opposites.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out. Then we get Nicki Minaj. And in her case, she's got Neptune and Mercury here at 26 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about before, so Mercury is our communication. It's just saying whatever comes to mind with no filter in this case, because Neptune's right there.
Okay.
And so there can be a switching of personalities, and jumping into the ether, a ability to be an improvisational actor or actress very easily with this energy. And so things can slip out. And I don't know too much about her, but the little that I read, she seemed very playful and mischievous about it, which is Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see it as a detriment. She saw it as,
Okay.
she's like, yay, I get to be this personality.
Yeah.
This one,
Yeah. So I
And
just
so
let my dog real fast.
That's what I would expect with Mercury, would be that playful aspect to him. As the Saturn is like, you must get control of this.
Okay. Yeah. Saturn's more like the OCD, which we say.
Well, yeah, Saturn's like father time, right?
Okay.
The planet of no fun for you. It's Captain
Okay. Okay.
And she actually has her Saturn here with Pluto too. So these are two heavy hitting energies of control sitting
Right.
together, like with their machinations. We're gonna make this happen. So she's powerful. She decides to do something, she will do it. And so if she wants to own the fact that she has multiple personalities, okay. It is a plan. Take it or leave it. I don't care, and
Yeah.
the little I know about her, she does seem she's out there and
Yeah.
with it. And that's
No
beautiful.
apologies. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. Then there's Mel Gibson, and he was one that people suspected he had, but
Mhm.
he kind of joked about another personality, but that's not quite enough to get a diagnosis. You know what I mean? It's a very different thing being like, sometimes I embody a Viking, I think he said.
Yeah.
Well, we all can take on a little bit of that. It doesn't mean that you have this as a disorder.
Right. Yeah.
And so in his case, I actually don't really see a whole lot going on too much with his Neptune. So I would say that this is, I mean, he does have the square here,
Hmm.
Mercury. It's hard to see. He has a lot going on in his chart, actually.
Yeah. It seems like really intense.
So I could see the square isn't as intense as the opposition, but it's still not a fun, happy time. So I think maybe on occasion this comes up, but probably not enough to get that diagnosis. It's more of an inconvenience. He has more control over himself than that.
Hmm.
But I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if he hears voices, if he's tapped into the spirit realm and doesn't, well, and he is very much outwardly into God, you know.
Hmm.
So he will say that. And so that's where it comes from, but it's more like it took him a while to accept it.
Hmm.
That red line. It's like, this is staticky. I really have to work at hearing this.
Yeah.
And if I listen hard enough. So, you know, it is there. It is there. I'm going to say it is not. And then we've also got Jupiter here with Pluto again. So it's going
Oh.
with the Jupiter energy can carry that Neptunian vibe too. They both
Okay.
deal with Pisces is why. So very much it's kind of blowing up this energy in his life, but also makes a really powerful actor.
Hmm.
Channeling that energy of the ether into something I don't know, productive, I guess.
Hmm.
So, and then Marilyn Monroe, she was said to also have um, borderline personality disorder, and they suspected that she had multiple personality disorder. And in her case too, like I see, I do see that she's got her Neptune here in her first house. So she
Hmm.
can make that prominent actress, right? That ability to tap into these different things.
Hmm.
And it is at odds with the moon. So that can lead to her sort of getting very, very emotional and seeming to switch up on people. But in terms of that being multiple personalities, I don't think so. I think it was just back in the day they were like, oh my goodness, histrionics,
Yeah.
they're crying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
She's just dramatic, or yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And then let's see, it was Herschel Walker, who just sports
Yeah.
guy. And you know who he is.
Yeah.
He was outwardly he'll talk about this outwardly and like proudly that this
Hmm.
is so this is confirmed. And we've got Mercury squaring Neptune. Again, it's just coming right out. There's no filter on it. So people get to know. There's nothing holding it back.
But he had multiple personalities.
Yeah, that's according to him. I didn't know him before I started looking at these charts. So
Oh, okay.
that's just based on what he has said. And then Britney Spears is another one where, like, I think she has confirmed it.
Oh, okay.
Or somebody close to her, that's what it was. Not her, somebody close to her confirmed that she did. Which you never know. Who was that somebody close to?
Right.
That's why a grain of salt this. But she does have Neptune with that Lilith energy that I spoke of before, which I could see that. You know, it's Lilith's creation of your reality.
Okay.
Wild feminine creation with that Neptune. So it's like, how do we ground this out? What is the reality that we're gonna make? Well, Neptune's all these options, you know. And so it's very hard to be like, well, and you saw this in her actually growing up, like as she stepped into her womanhood and the issues that she had with that, like going from being America's darling to how sexy am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be? And she would have these kind of
Yeah.
public breakdowns and be like, I don't want to be seen as sexy anymore. I'm shaving my head. That's a very Lilith thing.
Yeah.
And then she'll be like, screw you and your patriarchy and your ideas of what is beautiful. I'm shaving my head. And that's that, you know. So yeah. And in her case, I could see that, you know, as a possible diagnosis. But she's a very happy worker. With this, again, we see Saturn with Pluto here. That's like determined,
Mm-hmm.
you know, energy. So just had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
And Anna Lynn McCord, do you guys know who she is? She's also an actress.
Alan McCord. I know that name.
I didn't know her too much. I just pulled her chart. I pulled a bunch of them just to see. But here again, we see Neptune opposite Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so don't need to say too much more about that. I think that she's confirmed from her own mouth on this one. That's what these 2 and 1 after the names are. It's reminding me what I looked up about them. And then Adam Duritz is also confirmed. He is the lead singer of Counting Crows.
Yeah.
If people don't know. But in this case, we get Neptune in a, well, I'd say it's got a lot going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
With Neptune crossing the moon and Jupiter. So all of those things will do that, but he probably kept it a little bit more inward than outward.
And how does that, because
the moon is our emotional inner selves.
oh, okay.
That's something that you share with everybody usually.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got a loose Neptune, Mercury, but they're in a good aspect to each other. So it's almost like, and you know, he kind of embraced it and dealt with it a little bit more.
Yeah.
In interviews I've seen. So it was more of an acceptance, and that would be the blue line. It's the one that's not staticky. It's like, well, this is just the way reality is. There's many of me at any given point, and he chose to channel these multiple personalities and their viewpoints into his music, right? Which is the social acceptable way to do it. So
That's interesting.
that's all the ones that I have. So next week will be somatic symptom disorder. So that's why this one's in here. So I was like, I'm going to try to pick next week's already. All right, so that was our look at dissociative identity disorder. Did either of you have anything to add? Anything that you found particularly insightful or helpful?
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, how does your chart get based? Do you have to get it read so specifically?
Well, you would need your time of birth, your date of birth, and your location. of birth.
And location.
And then you can run and see where the planets were at the moment
Okay.
that they took the first breath. And that's like your energetic blueprint or figure.
Okay.
And then you go from there. And it will tell you all about your personality, and it's really, really interesting. I've read probably a good 1,000 charts by now, and every one of them is unique. So when you said at the beginning, I think maybe even before we started recording, it's every one is different, and that's what makes it so powerful. Because in understanding what your blueprint is, you can choose to make your life of sticks or bricks or titanium. You have free will on what your house is made of. This just gives you the plans for it. And
That's
that
really
free will
cool.
comes in raising your vibration on stuff. So, in the case of having multiple personality disorder, what can we learn from astrology that might help people suffering from this? Could we help them see it from more of a spiritual lens? Could we come at it through that? Would things like ayahuasca help such individuals, to integrate parts of themselves, see them differently? It's certainly worth looking into. And we know of mushrooms and such being used in therapeutic senses more and more. So there's an opening up to these sorts of things, which I'd like to see.
Yeah.
If we can see that it's just, a lot of it that I saw today was the Mercury Neptune connection, so it's like if we can work on Mercury, which also deals with the nervous system. So other things that we can do that can quiet the nervous system down that might make the integration of the imaginative centers of the brain flow more smoothly, so that they can talk to each other and distinguish fantasy from reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be a place to start, and it's going to depend on where it's coming from. If it's the Mercury or the Saturn or the Lilith energy that you're working with it. We come at it differently, but
I think that would be really helpful for someone who was looking to find answers maybe in a different way that's not getting help from like Western ways. Even though astrology is, I don't know if it's based Eastern or if it's Western. I know that there's a difference between Eastern and Western. Is there astrology?
Yeah. So you've got the Greek astrology and then the Vedic astrology, the Indian astrology, and there's a big overlap between the two of them. They share a lot. They went back and forth as they were initially learning. In fact, it was when the Library of Alexandria burned down, we lost like a ton of astrological information, and the high priests and priestesses were devastated. Like, it was not okay. And they found out that a monk had copied it all and sent it to a place in India, and so they had it, and they were able to get it back. So they had that sharing, and so the Vedic astrology held on to Western astrology while we went through a hard time, and then gave it back.
That's so cool.
Vedic, as I see it, is more dealing with like past life stuff, so karma and stuff a lot more. And there's accuracy in that. It's not something that I tend to focus on. Western is more here and now, what we can do in this life with this form. But certainly, it's almost like wanting to know what the correct language is, English or Chinese.
Right.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
And there's like 5,000 different types of astrology, but those are two of the main ones, what you hear about. And it has to do with like how they view the constellations versus having the Earth be the center. So there's differences in how they calculate stuff slightly, but the energies are all the same.
Cool.
So anybody is looking to get their chart read, I do read charts and go into all of this and one-on-one, or I do pre-recorded. So the information can be found below. And this is on behalf of 11th House Publishing, I should say. We are a neurodivergent publishing company that is nonprofit. We just got our nonprofit status
Congratulations.
last week. And so we're just getting kind of the ball rolling on that. And neurodivergency is very outside of the box thinking, which is what society needs going forward to build a more utopian version of itself than what we've been dealing with. As Pluto goes into Aquarius, you may have heard about all of this sort of thing. So we're kind of on the cutting edge of giving voices to people who are oftentimes hushed and set aside and outcast.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we've also, if you want to join us, we go live every Wednesday in the Authortunities Hub, which is, Sarah, you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
Came in, and you can be part of the conversation, ask questions, etc. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
6:30 Central Time every Wednesday. And the Authortunities Hub is like an algorithm-free community for authors, for creatives of all kinds, really. And it's not Facebook or Twitter or any of those. It's just it's a safe haven. That's how I look at it. Thanks to Angela for allowing it to be.
Oh, it's my safe haven as well. So it's completely selfish. I'm like, yes, I don't want to go onto the social media anymore.
All right, and if you want to let me know what you think about, do you agree with my assessment? Do you have something that you'd like to add? Leave it in the comments below. I'm always learning about all this stuff. Every chart I ever look at is I learn something from the person. So as many as I've done, it is always fresh, and that actually makes me happy, and my neurodivergent's happy. So thank you for joining us, and I will hopefully see you guys next week for the somatic disorders, and we can dive into what causes that and what causes the doctors to not believe us, perhaps. All right, thanks. You guys want to say goodbye? Oh, it looks like Angela already went out.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.